Which ad tech giant crushed their Q3 earnings?
And streaming media continues to take center stage. All this on this episode of Breakfast and Convos. Good morning. I'm Liberty White.
And I'm T. Adeola, digital marketing expert. Liberty, I
Yes.
heard that, streaming is doing its thing and that you picked up on a couple of them. Tell me about it.
I did. So the we last week we spoke our last episode. We spoke about what was happening with just Netflix and the franchise with My Little Pony. And funny enough, I actually watched it. Like so, Samantha and I have our girls' night. So when the weekend comes around, we pick a movie. And I know she did not like she was at school, so she did not hear our episode last week. But it was just so funny. Like that's the one that she picked, and it
That's
was
the universe speaking.
just know she just picked up on it, but it was really good. Like just the storyline was solid, the animation was solid, and as it tailed off, I was like, you know what, I see where you're going, My Little Pony. Like, well, I think we had mentioned that it was about 750 that they were going to be spending $750 million that they were going to spend
Hmm.
in content, and I see it. I get it. It makes perfect sense. So yes, so it was watching My Little Pony. I got to see The Harder They Fall,
Okay.
which was really good. I don't know. That's the one with Idris Elba and the Western, and it was like I'm gonna watch it again. I didn't have any
Nice.
expectations for it. It
Nice.
was
Yeah,
like
I'm out of the loop. I actually don't watch very much media at all because I'm always reading.
yeah.
I'm either reading, writing, or listening to a podcast. So I'm somewhat boring in that aspect, or at least that's what my exes tell me. Don't believe them though, because I'm a great catch. They be tripping. But
Yes, you are great
yeah, thank
conversations
you
because of
for
that.
that.
Yes, that's
But
how we could do this, right?
yes, yes. So yeah, I'm glad it was great because it's like I've seen all these memes about all this great content and Squid Games. I haven't seen Squid Games. Like, don't come for me in the
I'm
comments
right there
and,
with
and,
you.
and please don't, please come back next Tuesday. But yeah, I actually, even though I study a lot and I'm knowledgeable on the industry, on the business side of it, I actually don't consume very much media at all.
But that's okay. So, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that. There was a period of time, much like myself, and I'll break this into two parts of where I recognize that the amount of time that I am consuming content, like Netflix hasn't come to me for a deal yet. So, why am I, watching all of this stuff and then really starting to hunker down on producing and creating content and live streams? But after some therapy, my therapist was like, all you ever do is work. Because when I'm watching something or I'm breaking it down, deconstructing, like, no, I need you to watch for entertainment purposes. So that is where it's like, let me go ahead. Because I haven't the summer I did watch a lot of stuff, but in the past, having started Techstars, and I haven't watched anything. So this was a I'm going to decompress and let my brain just enjoy. And so that's what it was.
Self-care matters. It is
It
important. It is very important.
it does. But T, I know you've got a lot of great information to share with us because you are the researcher and got all those data points for us of just like who has been crushing in Q3. Before we get to that, I want to acknowledge Octavia Warner Gilmore, and
Mhm.
she is the founder of Creative Juice. And that's a marketing agency here in Atlanta. And I'm trying to see if I can pull this up. I might just have to come back and do that in the post part of things. But she actually made up an announcement on LinkedIn saying how she has hit her company hit 1 million. They've grossed 1 million in revenue
Woohoo!
in this year. This goes back. See what? Thank you for the sound effects. We always say that we need to get
Mhm.
sound effects together, but that's a huge feat, especially when we're looking at statistics where I think it was the National Association of Women Business Owners, where 4.2% of all women who own businesses have over 1 million in revenue. That is a very, very small number when you look at 4%. Like that's less than 5% of women hit that mark. And just for her to, and I've been at events where I've seen Octavia and just seeing how, and she shared this on social, which is interesting. She teased it out. She's like, I'm going to be offline for a little bit, until she was only like 5,000 away from that number. And to see that she hit that, and it is not even like, we still have what, 40 something, 45 days or not left in the year. So, just wanting to acknowledge that, not only as a woman in business, a Black woman in business, a woman in marketing, because we know what this
Mhm.
landscape, looks like.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's no small feat, especially given the fact that women are generally crushing it in all categories, be it in higher education, be it in starting a business, be it in y'all taking over. And so for that number to be stuck there at such a dismal level is really a sad testament. But I am genuinely happy for Octavia. So
yeah, just
like the
popping
sound
up her
effects, all that,
on the screen super
all that good
quickly.
stuff, because that's no small feat.
Right, right. So kudos to her. And just even looking at, so as a part of Techstars being in this program, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, thank you. Feel free to jump into the comments and let us know that you're watching. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and say replay, because we love to acknowledge our viewers. But as I'm going through Techstars, we're in week 6. So we've got 4 weeks left, and you, T, have done accelerator programs yourself.
Mhm.
Like that push where at the end of it is like, we've been going through our customer discovery, we've been meeting with mentors, we've been assessing where we are with our businesses and what needs to change, and all of that. It's like
Getting
for
ready
the
for demo day,
that's
and
what I was gonna say.
the
Yeah.
butterflies in the stomach, and everybody's like, "Well, who gonna go first? You should go first." No, then I'll go after you. That whole thing.
That's a really good question that I need to ask. It's like, wait, what's the order? But we stay ready. So
Yeah, it's the funniest thing ever when you have a bunch of type A, like really alpha folks who are go getters, and all of a sudden we all turn white as a sheet, and it's like, you go. No, you go, I'll go after you. And then
right.
somebody has to go, and then everybody else just, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's exciting. And once you get in there, at least for me, it all melts away, and you come back to yourself, and you just go. And knowing you for as long as I've known you, I can't wait, because I have every confidence, and there's no doubt in my mind that demo day is going to be something special. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Looking forward to it for you.
Thank you so much. And it in kind of tying in, Octavia's feet, and I almost want to, I'm gonna have to shoot her like an email or something like that, of just the the how part, because it is such a small group of people who make it there. Even hitting 100,000 is still not a small feat when they look at, and I want to just mention some of these statistics I pulled from the Georgia Department of Economic Development, where the state, like, so Georgia is number 5 for the greatest number of women owned firms, and Metro Atlanta ranks in number 5 as well. So if you look at the fact that, like, this state is the 5th largest state in all of the US of all the women who own businesses, what that means for that cash flow. So there, I remember in her post, she also mentioned, like, she hired a CFO, she hired a COO. There are levels to this, and that's what we
Mhm.
learn through these accelerator programs is, okay, so once you, we're even for, so I'm in the program for chosen media kids, and we're even going back through customer discovery, like really going back to nail in, because one of the things for, again, for me, coming out of this is really like the idea of creating a platform for young Black kids to see themselves as the heroes, leaders, and stars of their own stories. And that's great, but you don't have a business until people are willing to pay. So
Mhm.
as much as like idea concept wise and putting out stuff, you've got to work on your traction. Like, so you're doing all of these different things while still serving clients. Like, that's why I'm just like, I don't know how many people she has, behind the machine of running an agency, but I love your phrase of like, it's no small feat.
Not at all. And speaking of people willing to pay, um, this episode we got a lot of great numbers for you. Now I know Liberty, you got some great things queued up from our buddy Byron Allen, who is your fellow Techstar alumni. I do believe. I don't know him personally, but like I'm pretty confident that you can hook a brother up, right? You can arrange that because you got the connection,
I
right?
wish I could. He's one of those mentors like in my head. When it comes to mentors, and just a tip for anyone watching, I recognized a couple years ago where it was like, you're emailing and you're trying to find out who knows this person so you can get an introduction. And then the light switched for me when it was like, wait a second, if I pick up this book, this book that said person has shared their secrets or told stories, like I can be virtually mentored through. So to your point of you sharing that you spend a lot of time with podcasts like that's my Audible is like gigs gigs on
Hmm.
my phone of listening to books, I went through a period of constantly listening to Byron Allen because of what he was able to do, coming from one of the youngest writers, or Jay Leno, and all the likes, like as a comedian. So being the youngest person in the room from that perspective, but then also him thinking big and building his own media conglomerate where he a few years ago he bought the Weather Channel. Like
Hmm.
he owns that
Big boy
property.
moves. Yeah,
He
yeah.
owns the Grio. He owns, and I need to, and I might have to go back notes wise and saying like there's a caveat to that, to the Weather Channel as well. But he just recently bought, and we're let me pull this up so that I can make sure he bought a streaming platform. And it kind of goes back to what we've been saying but we're at episode 5 for the season, just like another another
Hmm.
yay moment. But it goes back to the fact that yes, he has a media company, but how important content is. And it gets a bad rap when it comes to business. Like, well, how is content really going to help you, drive your business? But content is how people are communicating, like whether that be that they're trying to, whether it be through a blog, whether it be through a podcast, whether it be through, we just happen to be speaking about streaming, but that acquisition, it enabled him to now, like, this property is now coming with 5,000 hours of
Mm.
content.
Yeah, yeah. That is quite a bit. So that's a nice that's a nice little war chest. You know what I mean? Because it's always important to start from a position of strength
Right.
when you're talking about acquisitions, because it's like, because if it's not from a position of strength, then why are you buying it?
Right.
Right. But
Right.
yeah, that is quite the that definitely like piqued my interest and made me take notice, because Mr. Allen is quite the savvy investor, right?
Right.
Quite the savvy investor. And he knows how to analyze things. He knows how to discover value. And he's someone people watch, not just because of his status, but to your point, how he gained his status, right? How
Exactly.
he started from the bottom. Now we here, you know what I mean? That sort of thing, that meteoric rise from going into someone who I mean can go toe to toe with the best of them. So yeah, it is I am very, very excited to see the space and where this goes, because streaming it's interesting because television has been, television in terms of media, is in terms of revenue, television is the stalwart, right? It
Yeah.
gained prominence better part of a decade ago and just hasn't let go. It hasn't let go from the position. It's way bigger than radio or print or all the other types of traditional media. And of course, in when you're talking about technology, there's always this, ooh, this new thing is coming and it's
Right.
gonna kill this and it's gonna kill that and blah blah blah. And TV has just, even with all the streaming, TV has been remarkably resilient. And it's just not going anywhere. And there's good reason for that, because demographically, a lot of older people watch a lot of television, right? So for streaming to come as far as it's come, as fast as it has come, and to see all the money come into this space, is extraordinary. It's an extraordinary thing.
Right.
And
And then, oh, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Oh, and then just even looking at, and I didn't, forgive me, HBCUGo.tv. So, what this means for his war chest is that he's already got the property of the griot. Now he's tapping into that HBCU market. And we've done some work in the past with the likes of UNCF and some of the other organizations that you look at these students that, okay, you now have this pipeline of how they can mature from one platform and just having a deeper footprint into introducing them into the griot or some of the other properties that he has, because he has cars.tv. Like, it just goes on and on. And again, going back to when you think about, and this, going to Chosen Media Kids and just the research that we're doing, they say when you are creating content, so when you decide to put out a show, whether that be on YouTube or even if it's a podcast, you don't want to just like, okay, you've just got one episode. You want to start with a minimum of 4 episodes, because
Mhm.
if people like what you've created, they're going to want to consume more. So again, going back to like that 5,000 hours and thinking about like, what did it take to create that 5,000 hours? So that acquisition just basically gives them this plug and play into just their overall strategic plan. So, just acknowledging like, wow, okay, that was a big deal, and I'm curious as to who else, who's next,
It is.
Byron Allen. So yeah, he's definitely one of my mentors, my virtual mentors. Hey, Ebony, thanks. So Ebony
Yo.
says the HBCU brand is strong, and the journalism industry needs the pipeline for diversity. Very
Say that
true.
again. Say that
Yes.
one more time, Ebony. Thank you. And the great thing about pipeline and why it's so important is that, because young people get older,
Yeah.
right? And
Facts.
then older people, they go on to the next phase of this cosmic journey. So it's like you have to have that, right? And so it is a very, very smart play from Mr. Allen, who knows a thing or two about making some money. Speaking of making some money,
Yes.
it's Q3. We're in Q4 now, but the Q3 earnings are out, and woohoo! Did ad tech come in a big way? Terry, thank you so much for commenting. Um,
That was just a super. I just wanted to pop it on the screen because we acknowledge and love when our audience chimes in and gets. And so this is the other Mr. Allen. This is my mentor, like in person, best mentor Terry Allen. But he's just basically talking about the access and what the impact of what Byron Allen has done. So yes, yes,
That's Byron Allen's
very.
cousin. Quit playing, Liberty. You know this man. Hook me up. I feel like you and Byron Allen and Terry, y'all now had lunch. I wasn't
Just
invited because I be fasting. Like, call me. You know what I'm saying? Next time you talk to Byron Allen, call me,
the next
Liberty.
go round, the
Okay.
next
Yeah.
the next go round.
Because I move with moguls. I get it. He's very selective about, I get it. But like text me, go like just
Just be
smell him
like,
and,
I'm
and
just
do
gonna say
something.
like
Like
meet me at the spot. So when
yes.
you see that, like game over, game over. But I want to hear about these Q3 earnings.
Indeed. So let me share my screen. And okay, and it's asking me I want to share a Chrome tab. and I want to share this Chrome tab. Okay,
Yes.
so sorry about that. I'll get faster next time. So the Q3 earnings are out. And we're going to start with Facebook, the scandalous Facebook, now Meta. They brought in 29 billion with a B. And just for context, because I know we throw around billion a lot, $1 billion is $1 million 1,000 times over. So 1 million times 1,000 is a billion. Facebook brought in 29 of those in Q3. Now, that was a bit below the 29.57 they were expected to bring in. But I think at that point, you're splitting hairs when you're talking about the billions, like 500,000, like that's changed. But they it was just about the same that they brought in Q2 of last year. So like we said before, digital media marketing has been one of the beneficiaries of the pandemic for as devastating as it's been, and 9 billion of that is pure profit. So for context, Facebook is the second largest digital ad seller, the first being Google, the third being Amazon, and this is 4x growth of Facebook shares. There's been a 4x growth of Facebook shares since 2016. So despite all of the scandals and all of the bad press, their stock prices have been surprisingly bulletproof. And you can even see at the top of the page, it says Facebook shares rise as investors focus on the best look past the whistleblower document dump. So it doesn't, and we can talk about, the impact on a societal level, but from the bottom line revenue perspective, it doesn't really hurt them that much because get this, 24% of all digital ad spend goes through Facebook, which is good enough for 17% of all media spend, period. Right? So, for as much as I just lauded Facebook's performance in Q3, which is laudable given the fact that they have all of these headwinds. And to be clear, in the earnings call, Sheryl Sandberg put the blame directly on Apple's privacy updates because Apple and Facebook have had quite the acrimonious falling out. And they're saying, basically it's Tim Cook's fault. We didn't make our numbers. If not for that, I mean, that's basically what she said. She didn't
Right.
use that verbiage, of course, but she basically said it's Tim Cook's fault. Right? If not for Tim Cook, we would have hit our numbers. But to put it all into context, and I'm not going to stay on this soapbox for too long. I'm just getting my notes together. Yes, I have paper notes because I'm a professor and I do things like that, and I use pens and paper.
But we appreciate that. That's where the
Indeed.
genius resides.
Indeed. So I'm going to stop sharing this window and I'm going to pop over to the other window that has the Google's or Alphabet, which is yet another failed rebrand because no one calls Google Alphabet. Everybody calls Google Google.
Google, right? And
Exactly.
I was getting texts in too for like this whole Apple and Facebook conversation because I guess Tim Cook was on CNBC earlier today. So hilarious, just
Mhm.
the timing of this all. But yes, Google, Alphabet.
Yes, they brought in $65 billion in Q3. Absolutely crushed Q3. And for context, I said this last episode and I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating. Google is 4 times the size of Facebook. 4 times. So, for as much press and scandal as Facebook gets, because here's what happens because all of the headlines, people tend to over focus on social media and exclude the other digital marketing channels like search, email, that sort of thing, the things you absolutely need to focus on and you cannot ignore. And so when my students first come into our program, I immediately have to break this love affair. I have to take a sledgehammer to it. Break this love affair with social media because they always come to, oh, social this, social that, I want social. And it's like, no. You need to, A, identify, to your point, who is it that you're serving, really focus in on your persona, that value prop, and then I can almost guarantee you they're not looking for you. Ain't nobody checking for you on Facebook. They're checking
Facts.
for you on
In
Google.
Google.
That's where they're checking for you. So this was a record quarter for Google. That is a 43% increase year over year. And of that breakout, because with Google, because they own so many properties, they break it out between search, the search network, which are these ads over on the side here. So the Google search network covers 90% of the internet. So sites like CNBC or the Weather Channel or the Cooking Channel, whatever, Google is how this ad on the side is actually placed on that site. So whenever you go to like a recipe site or something like that, and you see these ads on the side, Google is how the ads get there, and Facebook does the same thing. So 71% of that revenue came from search, which is up 40% from last year. The Google Display Network, which we just talked about, which are these ads over here, that's up 22%, and YouTube is up 40%. Right. So
Hmm.
I really do. And I'm probably going to say it till everybody gets sick of me and they start putting in the comments, Liberty, make T stop saying it because he says it every episode. But really, Facebook, and I'm sorry, Google is 4 times larger than Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call them. So strategically, it often does not make sense to start your digital marketing strategy with social media or Facebook, because by the numbers, and again, this is not an attempt to make Facebook or Meta seem small or insignificant, because they're not. But by the numbers, they should not be the absolute focus of what you're doing, because one, search is often a lot larger, and the undisputed heavyweight champ when it turns to digital marketing in general, we can have a whole other segment about it, is email.
Yeah.
Email makes way well, like by dollar spent, what's called ROAS, return on ad spend, by dollar spent. Email makes way more money than social and even search. It's something stupid. Like the ROI is upwards of 40 to 1, meaning for every $1 I spend on email, I get 40 back. You don't see those numbers anywhere else in digital. But everybody's like, "Ooh, Facebook, Facebook. I need my Facebook." And I'm like, stop it. Stop doing
That's
that.
why we are here. We are here to break this, break the mold, bring people into the light, and really unpack these things, because we will hear these numbers, but then by providing the context of what that means, and hopefully as folks are putting together their strategies and their plans holiday wise into the 2022, into the next year, that they'll assess what makes sense, what's hitting and what's not. And I know we're coming down to the wire, but we cannot, so thank you so much for that, T. We cannot leave. We did a whole last, if you missed last week's episode, go, you can find it on YouTube, you can find it on LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn Live, because we really broke down YouTube and the opportunities there, but we touched on the live stream shopping, and I want to just make sure that we add this part of the conversation with Pinterest and what they're doing, because they just unveiled Pinterest TV over the weekend. It started yesterday, and essentially what this is, if you update the app, and I'm just trying to scroll up so that I can show you, they're now just like the QVCs, the shopping, like the app, you can now watch some of your favorite Pinterest influencers, and they have now video programming. So this is apart from pins, this is apart from clicking through to things, but you'll be able to engage with them. So this live stream shopping, and what this means for, so Pinterest has about 450 54 55 million users worldwide. So thinking about the fact that now they're going to give them another avenue to monetize. And so this is a slow rollout, but all week, if you make sure you update the app so that you can go to Pinterest, you click on that TV button, there are, and just to switch tabs for a minute there, that you'll see there's a lineup of people who'll be streaming live, and these people are they're in very niche markets. So whether that be arts and crafts, whether that be penmanship or cards or fashion and style. So as we are coming into this holiday season, and really who set the stage for this was Amazon, with Prime Day and Amazon Live, and now everyone else is running to catch up. But what is great is, to your point, T, is that people, we talk about the Facebooks, we talk about the YouTubes, we talk about the Googles, we talk about all of those folks, but we're also sleeping on some of these other channels where there is, where there's opportunity there. So
Pinterest does not get near the love it deserves. The intent on Pinterest is super. Because here's the thing: different platforms are great for different things. So IG gets a lot of the press when it comes to influencer marketing, but Instagram is a very aspirational platform, meaning you follow people you aspire to, that
right.
look like how you don't look, or they get to go on vacation in like Santorini or someplace that you can't afford to go to. Whereas on Pinterest, that is inspirational in the fact that you're actually going to do what you see. So it's not a matter of like looking at it and longing to do it. No, no, no. You're going there for an idea that you're going to execute on. So that's very high. And speaking about strategies and execution, you know who makes a planner that is great for video marketing and like getting things out of your head and into the world is none other than Liberty White. So she don't plug herself enough because she's so busy being a boss and doing all these stuff. But that's why I'm here. So I'll make sure y'all don't forget to get that. So go over, get Liberty. Tell the people where to find it.
The DIYvideoplanner.com. And I will be sharing some because we're doing a boot camp later this month. So I will be sharing more, but I want to come back and thank you for that, T. See, this is why you make sure that you're around people who are saying your names in rooms that you're not even in, although I'm in this room here. So, shout out. Hey, Ash, I see as we're winding down, we've got some folks popping in. So thank you. I try to catch his show. He's on the other side of the world. With his podcast. So thank you for tuning in. I did want to quickly come back to the Pinterest conversation just for one moment because I need to share this number. So, we know that the pandemic has accelerated e-commerce and people creating platforms where they can sell products. Now, when we look at the US, that what I'm looking at is the census data, where 13.3% of retail sales that is dedicated to e-commerce. And so they're also projecting by next year, by next year, you're looking at, or the end of this year, it's expected to reach to 15%. So when you see these companies that are social tech, however you want to describe them, and then the push for sales, like this number is not going to trend backwards. Like e-commerce is going to continue to rise. And if your business is positioned for that, keep watching Breakfast and Combos because we will continue to share, who's doing what's next so that you can stay ahead of the curve with your marketing and branding. And I think that is a great note because we want to make sure
Yes,
that
we
we
do,
keep it. Thank
Terry.
you
We
so
we love
much.
Liberty to pieces because this is Liberty's birth child, by the way. That her brainchild, rather, not birth child, brainchild. She has one of those too, but that's
Right.
this isn't it. This is her brainchild. She does all the production. She does most of the I just show up, be handsome, and sound smart. But
Right.
everything else is Liberty. So I am
And,
just so
and be
blessed that she
smart.
lets me, hitch my caboose to her train. So salute Liberty. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, for commenting. If you're on the replay and you have an e-commerce business, go ahead and drop that link below. Like just like we saw the news about Octavia, we want to make sure that we're shouting out and supporting our local businesses, and local, since we're online, is the world. So thanks so much for watching Breakfast and Combos. I'm Liberty White.
And I'm T. Adeola signing off.
See you next week.